What's up everyone, my name is AFROBEATS and today I'm going to show you how to create a unique Afrobeat. So this beat will be an Afrobeat, but it's definitely going to have some amapiano influences. So we're going to use some amapiano elements, and those are often used in new Afrobeats. And for this beat I'm also going to show some amazing tips on how to create something unique and original. So we're going to apply some techniques which I do not apply that often. So let's get started. So we're going to create this beat in the tempo of 112 BPM. And first we're going to start off with the drums. So when it comes to the drums in Afrobeats, they most of the time consist out of multiple layers, and especially in amapiano. And we're going to create a beat which is somewhere in the middle. So we're going to add a lot of percussions to add some groove and rhythm. So first we're starting off with this kick. And then we're already going to add a shaker. So for this beat, I've picked a different approach and I'm going to layer some toms with the kick to add some room and color to the kick. And those are following the exact same rhythm. And this all again to switch it up, make it sound just a little bit different. And for those elements, make sure to not add low frequencies. You could simply remove them by using this equalizer, because otherwise the low frequencies from the toms, which are most of the times pitching within the sample, are going to collide with the kick. So that's definitely something you don't want, because otherwise your low frequencies are going to get very muddy. So you basically just want the mid frequencies and the high frequencies from the toms. Then we're adding a clap. So on the clap we're adding some room to make sure we add some ambience to the beat. Then we're adding some mid frequencies using this bongo, while making sure they don't play the exact same level every bar, because that's going to be very repetitive. Then we're adding another snap and this percussion, the clave. Make sure to play around with the velocity to give it some more dynamics and rhythm. And then make sure to add some swing to the beat, around 15 to 20%. So right now there's already a lot going on, exactly what we want to achieve. So we want to make sure it doesn't get too confusing or whatever. We want to add some main elements and add some tiny additions like this clave underneath. Then we're adding 3 more toms layers. So we're adding some bongos and a djembe. And then I found this loop on arcade, which is a clap loop from the major moves. And it adds like a second rhythm to the drum loop. Sounds really groovy, it just sounds really, really nice. And of course we're adding this typical clap layer. You can't be missing out on this when you're creating those kinds of beats. Step 2 is adding a drum roll. So in most of the Afrobeats, when the beat is transitioning from, for example, the verse to the hook, a drum roll is used to announce this transition. And these drum rolls could be very complicated, but they could also be very simple. So for this beat, I've created a drum roll which consists out of 3 toms and 1 tambourine. So first we're starting off with this simple tom, which contains a lot of reverb. Then we're adding the second layer, which is also a tom, which also contains a lot of reverb. And we're making it a little bit more interesting by adding a tom, played around with the velocity. And this one sounds like this. So right now it already starts to sound like a roll. And then I've added this tambourine at half of the last step. And that's basically it. So when we layer those elements, and then on the roll, make sure to just add a little bit of reverb. So in this case, I'm using the Valhalla Vintage Verb, making sure you remove the low frequencies and you add between 2 or 3 seconds of reverb decay time. But to make it just a little bit more interesting, I've added another roll, also from arcade, using this win some, lose some preset bank. And this one sounds like this. So this is a drum roll where a lot is going on. But in the end, when you layer all these elements, it just sounds so amazing. In the end, there is just a lot going on and all these elements are perfect to create an interesting arrangement. The next step is adding the melodies. And first we're going to start off with a chord progression. So when you're creating an amapiano beat, and also when it comes to creating Afrobeats, most of the times a simple pad or keys layer is used to start off the beat. And this also is the foundation of the beat. So basically all the elements which are added to a beat like this are also based on the foundation, which is the keys loop. So I'm using the Anna 2 from Slate Digital and I'm using the Casper pad and I'm creating this beat in E minor. And on the chord progression I've added an EQ to reduce some of the annoying mid frequencies. And now we're adding some reverb, which sounds really wide. So for the intro of this beat, this element sounds so cool. And for this beat, I wanted to create something unique, so I opened up Splice and I've added 2 vocal samples. So I found this vocal sample from a random kit, which is in E minor, so I didn't have to adjust the pitch of the sample, and it goes very well together with the chord progression. And when adding this element, I still was thinking about something is missing. So maybe it sounds too slow. So I wanted to add another vocal sample. So I found another vocal sample, which is also in E minor. And in the end, it sounds like this when I'm layering those 2 vocal samples. So those both sound like a weird warp vocal sample, but I think they go perfect together with the chord progression. And for this beat, I just wanted to create a beat which contains as less element as possible. So I just added a simple new layer. And I've used this saxophone, the alto saxophone from Contact, without any effects. So this is just how it sounds dry, and that's it. Sounds like a real instrument, no synth instrument, and I think it goes perfect together. And secondly, I've used the 40s warp flute, which sounds like a really ambient and crazy weird synth. And this one is just playing in the background. You can barely hear it, but the reverb and delay, those are the things which just add another dimension to this beat. So right now we're going to add the log drum and the bass line. So for the log drum, I've used the Fruity DX10 using log drum preset 5. And this log drum is just playing together with the root notes of the chord progression. So C, D, A, and D. When I open up the chord progression, these are the root notes of this chord progression. So C, D, A, and this again is A, but this one is also pitching down. So I think D just fits better and make it more interesting. So the log drum sounds like this. And on the log drum, I've added the Saturn 2 to add some more distortion. And then I've boosted the mid frequency, so I wanted to give it some more punch. Still right now, it's missing a lot of low frequencies, so I added the frequency modulated sub from the DX10, which is this stock preset, and then it's right here, FM sub. And I'm just making sure I'm adding enough low frequencies to the log drum. Which adds a lot of energy and color to the log drum. Otherwise the log drum just sounds way too dry and it doesn't sound like a finished and full element of the beat. So I highly recommend adding basses or sub basses like this to your log drum. But it wouldn't be an Amapiano, Afrobeat, Afro piano beat, whatever, if I'm not switching up the log drum. So when I'm switching up this log drum, I've used the exact same log drum, but I've extended these notes. So it doesn't sound stuttering, it's just like a fluent 808 bass line. So when I'm playing those together, crazy, right? I'm just using the exact same notes, just added a couple of more notes just to make it more interesting. You want to make sure the listener is still interested after listening 1 minute. So by switching up the beat, there is not too much going on, so it's still easy to follow, and I think this sounds really awesome. So that's it. I've showed you all the elements. So if you're interested in the sounds which I'm using, make sure to check out the Amapiano Paradise drum kit and the Afrobeats Infinity drum kit. I've also bundled them together in the Afro Piano bundle, so make sure to check it out. The link is in the description. I will also post this beat on my second channel, so if you want to listen to it, make sure to check it out. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and let's listen to the final result.